Revelation 8. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea, and had life, died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed.
Firefighters escaping deadly flames from the Tamarack fire near South Lake Tahoe, California, just in time.
You seeing that, Brandon?
A giant fire whirl caught on camera. Just one of the 86 wildfires across the West, destroying homes, damaging critical infrastructure, and forcing thousands to evacuate. Governor Gavin Newsom declaring a state of emergency in 4 counties, with flames crossing into Nevada and the Dixie Fire near Paradise, California, exploding into a mega fire consuming more than 100,000 acres. The smoke smothering the entire country. NASA releasing this image Friday, fumes again reaching the East Coast.
Firefighters are battling day and night to try to bring it under control, but it's spreading with such ferocity that it's making its own weather, creating huge clouds that are generating lightning strikes across the region. About a fifth of the fire's perimeter has been contained, but officials say the extreme nature of the fire, along with low humidity, is hampering efforts to quell the flames.
Through northwest Ontario. Only from the air can you appreciate the size and devastation of such a massive inferno. Flames sweep across the ground as fast as a man can run and reach 200 feet into the air. This is about as close as a helicopter can get.
Revelation 8. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea, and had life, died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed.
Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live. And friends, listen just for a moment here. I have kind of avoided getting into the subject of asteroids and things like that. Getting into this subject of asteroids here on Israeli News Live, because we have so many things that change. It's just like war. It's very fluid. And I say fluid because they can talk about an asteroid going to strike the Earth, but yet we have technology that we're able to steer them, we're able to destroy them. A lot of things can change before an impact occurs, and this is one reason why the government never really tells us about what's coming. A lot of different reasons for that. I did, though, last night, I released a video on Patreon about 3 different asteroids that are coming our way this year, and I was very careful in that video to explain that we are actively working to try to chip away at them, move them out of orbit, things like that, so that they don't hit the Earth. So in that respect there, I would say there's not any major cause of alarm. But at the same time, if they are unsuccessful in their campaign on this one particular asteroid, it's going to hit the Pacific subduction zone, which is going to trigger the fault line and the quakes for the Cascadia, things like that. It's going to be catastrophic if we can't manage to get this thing off course or break it apart. And they are actively working on breaking it apart. So I want you to be aware of that. They are actively working on it. Our Patreon channel, you get more information about this. I go into more details about it. I don't want to say too much here, just mainly because it's not always received very well. And like I said, and it's because things are always changing. Initially, and just to give you an idea of that change, initially this asteroid was supposed to hit near Cuba, and but because of them trying to chip away at it, they have knocked it out of its orbit to some degree, and it's shifted, and now it's going to the subduction zone there in the Pacific Ocean. It is big as of right now, and I don't have a time frame for it as of yet, but I know it's this year. At least that's what I've been told initially. And all three of them, they're traveling together. There's more than three, but the three that are supposed to impact the Earth are all traveling together. They're not planet killers, nothing like that. But because of the subduction zone, they do believe that it's going to cause the faults to go off at the Cascadia, and we could end up seeing some major quakes.
Something is going to hit the Earth again. There was an impact in Siberia within the last decade that was caused by an object about 20 meters across.
It broke up in the atmosphere and created a big shock wave. It was 10 times the size of the Hiroshima nuclear explosion.
It injured about 1,000 people in the town of Chelyabinsk.
Of course, if you imagine this happening with a greater population density.
The purpose of the DART mission is to take your spacecraft and you ram it into an asteroid to change the orbit so it won't hit the Earth.
We're not just trying to figure out how to deal with what's coming. No, we're actually going to go out there and we're going to try to stop it. All of the bigger asteroids have been cataloged, like the dinosaur killers that are 10 kilometers or 1 kilometers plus. At this point, what we're looking for are things that are smaller, that if they were to hit the Earth, they would create a regional impact.
Asteroid impacts that are big enough to cause damage and cause real problems are rare, but the stakes are really high. So the problem in an asteroid impact is that the Earth is going around the sun, an asteroid is going around the sun, and they both want to be in the same place at the same time. It's been over the past 20 years that planetary defense has started to be taken seriously after an impact into Jupiter by a comet in the mid-90s, and this impact into Siberia, I think, also opened a few more eyes. In 2016, the Planetary Defense Coordination Office was set up in NASA to demonstrate that we can do something about an asteroid impact if something is coming in. A nuclear device, for a long time, it has been the only tool that people had considered. But the concern with dispersing an asteroid is that now you have 2 or 5 or 15 things, and the pieces aren't that much smaller. What we want to do is understand those orbits for all the asteroids that might come close to the Earth. Then it becomes a matter of picking the new orbit you want for the asteroid and then changing its speed. If you have 20 or 30 years to do that, then you only need to change the speed by a millimeter a second or less, and then it'll miss the Earth entirely. The purpose of the DART mission as a whole is to test how this technique of a kinetic impactor would work if we ever needed to use it to deflect an asteroid.
163 days is a very short amount of time. It's insane. So DART is launching on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket in July of 2021. When we're going to hit it, we're going to create a plume. It's called an ejecta, and people want to be able to measure how much that plume helps push the moon along the way. The DART mission is a technology demonstrator for NASA. We're demonstrating not only our first planetary defense technique, we are demonstrating the next Z ion engine, we're demonstrating the rollout solar arrays, which is basically solar cells on big blankets, and they provide a lot of power to the spacecraft, and they're super lightweight. But the most important one, of course, is SmartNav, and that's what allows us to hit the asteroid. As we get closer in, about 8 hours out, we turn on all our systems. We're starting to stream pictures back to Earth. The spacecraft is still under ground control, though. And at 4 hours out, we turn it over to the smart navigation system.
All we see is essentially one bright dot that might be about 2 to 3 pixels large.
And the spacecraft itself is going to control what it's doing, and it's going to target the asteroid. Imagine a center of a dog bone. Where exactly are you trying to get to? So what you're trying to do by SmartNav is trying to create an envelope of what you think this moon might be like. Even though you don't know the shape, parts of it could be completely dark and you don't actually see them. And yet you're still trying to go for the center. It's very hard. And then it's not until about 2 minutes out that we're able to completely see the whole moon in its field of view.
We have this communication delay of about 1.5 minutes. That time delay for any decision-making process for humans in the loop in real time, especially at the speeds that we're traveling, is essentially impossible.
And then it's going to perform the impact. You're kind of done at the moment of impact. And if you missed it, that's really not good. So yeah, it's going to be mostly terrifying, probably exciting.